Well, 50% of Fife house sellers in 2022 had only been in their old home for an average of 4 years and 12 weeks. That's amazing. Midweek show, although it's maybe not the midweek show because midweek was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm quickly just putting my phone on silent because I've no doubt somebody's going to actually phone me when I'm on this show.
I know, I've just had to turn mine over to see it lighting up. So
Tell you what, it's like, 50% of house sellers in 2022 have only been in their home an average of 4 years and 12 weeks.
Mhm.
That's actually quite startling considering that before it was like folk were in their home for about 6 years. I mean, the share of Brits moving each year has been declining since the late 1980s, when at one stage people moved every 8 years. Yet since the pandemic beginning, something appears to have upset that trend. I wonder what that was. It's like,
yeah.
The newspaper stories, for example, Richard, and social media posts painted a picture of homeowners moving from city centres to its suburbs, from the suburbs to the towns and countrysides around the UK. Areas like the Cotswolds, for example, down in England, and coastal towns like we've got here around the country got swamped by the race for space, significantly affecting housing markets, including Fife. So, I mean, we saw it, didn't we?
Yeah, I was just going to say we did see that, and it was quite evident that was the trend, and that was what was being put out there on social media and the news outlets, that everybody was escaping the city into the suburbs and countryside, and we've seen it here in Fife. Obviously, people coming through from obviously Edinburgh and across the bridge and things, and tend to pick up property in more rural areas away from the hustle and bustle. Obviously, on the back of the pandemic and lockdown and COVID.
So, as a statistician, how many Brits have actually moved, and how long have they been in their homes before they've actually moved? I mean, in Great Britain, there are 28.3 million households, on which 19.3 million are owner-occupied and 4.43 million owned by private buy-to-let landlords.
Yeah.
Boo! It's like, that's what some people will do, eh? It's like, well, you can't please everybody. I mean, that actually equates to about 7 trillion of residential property in private hands. 8 years before the initial lockdown 8 years before the initial lockdown, actually in 2020, the average of 79,646 properties were sold each month in the UK, meaning that just under 1 million UK households actually moved annually. Therefore, in those 8 years, the average British homeowner moved every 20 years and 4 months. Now, that's a longer time.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, you're probably in you maybe are in the 50%, 4 years, 12 weeks, and I'm in the 50%, 20 years and 4 months.
Yeah.
Because effectively, I've been in my house for, about 20 years. About 20 years. It's remarkable when you think about it.
I know, time does pass. Because when you think about, when I let for a few years, and then I've been in my house for 6, going on 7, probably.
Yeah. Frighteningly enough, I was thinking back because it was Valentine's Day yesterday, and I thought, or the day before, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, I met Elaine 40 years ago.
That's a bit of a reality check.
Or thereabouts, just under that. It's like, oh my God, it's like, flipping heck. That's quite remarkable, I think, for almost 40 years. So what uplift was there in people moving home after the first lockdown in 2020 then, Richard?
Yeah, so I mean, in 2021 and like the early 2022, an average of just over 102,000 people moved home monthly, taking the average move in any one time to once every 16 years. So even though there was an uplift in people moving home, it was nothing like obviously back in the 1980s and things. It shows that obviously in the 21st century, once you've succeeded in buying a property, you can call call your home, like what you and I have at the moment. There isn't much enthusiasm to move again, really. If you're quite comfortable in somewhere and you feel like it's your home, you didn't really have that urge to keep moving until you.
So, if that's the case, then what's happening in the Fife property market right now? Then,
well, we love our homes in Fife. A lot of people are quite settled in Fife, but most of you, including obviously like myself and you, Jim, still want to better our lives with maybe a larger home, maybe a slightly better area, and what typically requires us to climb up the Fife property ladder. And that's what you see quite a lot. People maybe want a wee bit extra space. They maybe do want to change area. Things like driveways and just maybe extra outdoor space. Just that wee bit extra maybe pushes them to move on.
Yeah. When you think about it, Richard, with Fife house prices having risen 153% in the last 19 years, the cost of going up the next run on the Fife property ladder has become actually more prohibitive.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone remembers back in the 1980s when we had an upbeat, booming property market as a backdrop. The British homeowners moved home every 8 years. So now, with the average move time in the mid to late teens in terms of years, this equates to each homeowner only moving round about 3 or 4 times in their actual adult life. Or could it be something else? We all know the phrase we all know the phrase, don't we? I say it all the time, don't I? Lies, damn lies, and statistics. You can make anything look how you want it to look. You know, I'm an accountant by trade, so used to get asked all the time, what's the profit going to come in at for the month? And I went, what answer would you like? Because I can do accruals and prepayments to adjust that if you like. Most accountants will get that. I mean, the home mover statistics above, what we talked about, hide some of the great details about the British property market. When British homeowners get into their 50s and 60s, hello, that's me, and beyond, their inclination to move home drops like basically a proverbial stone. I mean, I've just been out to someone in St Andrews right now, and they've been in the house for quite a considerable time, but it's like, I can't be bored with the hassle. Even though they're in a big, massive house, it's a 5-bedroom or 3 reception. And it could be coming to market soon, folks. So what price for that one? Round about the 700,000 price point. It was only 2 of them rattling about in it, and it's massive. And the thought about moving. Let's say it this way. I heard a great phrase the other day, and it's the only way you'll do anything is if the perceived pain of doing what you're about to do is less than the pain where you are right now.
Right, okay.
That makes sense, yeah?
Yeah, if you're unhappy where you are, you still won't move if you think that the move's going to cause you more pain than that.
Because more people are motivated by the pain than they are motivated by the reward.
Like the gratification,
It's pushed by your dreams or pulled by your dreams or pushed by your circumstances. And in most cases, home movers really at that age in the 50s and 60s only move because of their circumstances, and they're pushed into it. And I mean things like, the house is far too big, it's cost an absolute fortune to run this, I can't afford it anymore. So it gets to a drastic state. I no longer can manage the stairs. I have to go somewhere to accommodate my needs because I can't have the stairs, and we can't get anywhere downstairs to have a bedroom, and then also the bathroom's upstairs, and we can't get one downstairs either. And
so they're pushed by their situation. So they've not got a choice.
So they're pushed by their circumstances rather than pulled by their dreams. And that's the one thing I talk to all house owners about is, for goodness sake, do not get into that position. Because if you leave it to the last minute and get into that position, you're left to the elements of the economy at that time and also the housing market at that time as well.
Yeah.
That's the key instrumental phases out of that. So yes, lies, damn lies, and statistics, and 50s to 60s and onwards can't be bothered moving their home. But that's what's going to do it. I mean, the average time a homeowner without a mortgage, because it's generally when you're in these, when you're in that age group, you've kind of cleared your mortgage. unless you're like me and you think I can make a better return on my mortgage for buy to let. So why would I want to pay that money off if I'm getting it cheap? So without a mortgage, so this is the average time a homeowner without a mortgage actually takes to move, and it's 24 years and 27 weeks. I mean, that's just about 24 and a half years. So just over 7 out of 10 outright homeowners, i.e. with a mortgage, are 65 and older. So
usually people 65 and over without a mortgage.
So, yeah, I've just proved that point. So does that mean that when I get to 65, I've got to pay my mortgage off?
Yeah.
It's like, no, to be normal.
Yeah, to fit in with the but I mean, homeowners with a mortgage tend to be younger and middle aged, like obviously myself, and homeowners with a mortgage they tend to move a little less, and it's usually around about every 10 years and 11 weeks or something, just over 10 years. So whilst you cannot determine which house sellers has a mortgage and which doesn't, you can look at how quickly people move in the market, especially here in Fife. And therefore, you could take a look at like the last 50 properties. We had a look at the last 50 in Fife and found some interesting results. So what were they, Jim?
Well, interestingly enough, the average Fife homeowner had only been in their home on an average of 11 years and 6 weeks before they actually sold.
Yeah.
Yet the devil's in the detail, remember. Now, this appears to be a two-speed Fife property market.
Yeah.
50% of house sellers in 2022 had only been in their home an average of 4 years and 12 weeks. Then let's split the findings into quarters then, if that's the case. So 25%, now bear with me, the fastest Fife homeowners in 2022 moved on average 2 years and 34 weeks. So that was 25% of that market in Fife.
Yeah.
The next 25% of the fastest Fife homeowners in 2022 moved on an average of 5 years and 36 weeks. The next 25, then they moved, here's the graph here, right here, moved on average 13 years and 4 weeks. And then the final slowest 25% of Fife homeowners in 2022 on average moved after 22 years and 28 weeks. Now, when you look at all the properties, for example, that fall into the slower time bands, the ones that don't move or sell so often, they tend to be larger properties where homeowners have lived often for 30 or even 40 years. So
and that's
maybe one of the lessons from these statistics then is that once the homeowners get into their 60s and 70s, their tendency and inclination to move home declines significantly. This means that, well, what does it mean?
Well, it means that homeowners, homes that are on the lower rings of the Fife property ladder are selling quickly, and younger aged homeowners occupy them. Yet Fife people tend to get older. Once Fife people tend to get older, their tendency is to move diminishes. And like you were saying about this couple in St Andrews, they're older, they don't feel the need to move, they're in this big house, but they're comfortable and they've been there a long time.
This falls into my discussion again this morning, but I had in the couple in St Andrews. The biggest challenge for them is to downsize to a bungalow.
Yeah.
And I said the fact that there's a limit in supply of bungalows, if any at all, and they're like hen's teeth, then it obstructs the younger generation from wanting to buy the bigger Fife properties, as these mature homeowners have to live in them. They can't actually move. It's a stalemate. So what's holding the generation back from selling and downsizing to free up the family homes is they desperately need them. And some will have apathy, and some will be wanting to hold on to their homes. They brought their families up
because of their family.
Yeah. The bottom line is, as a country, we must really reconsider how we encourage and not force, by the way, older homeowners to sell their larger homes to release them to the younger families that desperately need them.
To allow people to move up the ladder.
As I said before, the older homeowners need a property that's suitable to their needs, and they need to downsize. But the difficulty is there's not a higher degree of profit in a bungalow than you can get from a two-story house. or even a 3-story townhouse, or even apartments. And that's where the difficulty lies. The councils or the planning departments are potentially allowing. Now, I'm just going to say this, with a wee get out of jail card or whatever it is, a clause, because I'm no, but I believe the reason for this is because I've made some inquiries about this already and says, why are you not doing this? Why are you not putting restrictive planning conditions on this? Oh, we can't do that. And I'm like, of course you can, because you insist that you put planning for social housing on a development, and they can't do it unless they do that, or unless they pay a premium for not having social housing. And most of them just do the social housing because the premium is so prohibitive in terms of what you have to pay to not have the social housing on their site. It's like, it doesn't make economic sense. You're probably better just having the wee bit of social housing, sticking it in the corner, or putting it at the front where it's out the way and it doesn't get into the full body of the kit, so to speak. And that's the difficulty. They're not planning. I believe planning isn't putting conditions on house builders to say that if you're going to build here, you must put a proportional amount of bungalows, which represents the population mix in the community relevant, to actually allow them to downsize, to release the bigger houses so people can upgrade into these houses, so the older generation aren't stuck in there paying an extortionate amount in terms of energy costs, because this couple was £500 a month for their energy bills now. To heat a house, they're only using 2 or 3 rooms. But they can't find a place to go to. And then council tax at high levels as well. You've got the maintenance as well. And so you've got all these things that go hand in hand with this. So I think we have to really reconsider and find a way for older homeowners to actually sell their bigger homes to downsize. That's the key to here. I mean, some recent articles have suggested tax breaks, okay? Yet the government doesn't have the money to give the massive tax breaks.
Yeah, it does mention in there, obviously, and there will always be those people who hang on to their properties because they've got the sentimental ties to their families and things like that. But like you demonstrated there, Jim, and I've seen it as well, there is people out there that would voluntarily downsize and move to the right property if it was available. And
here's the one that comes with emotional ties.
Fact is that there's not.
Here's the one that comes with emotional ties.
Yep.
You probably know what I'm about to say. What if my family come to visit?
Yeah.
Really? Do you know how many times? And I immediately go back to them and say, how many times do your family visit a year? Christmas.
When did the last company stay? Yeah.
Christmas, that's it. Yeah. Or the next thing is the grandkids. What if the grandkids have to visit? How many times a year do the grandkids visit? Maybe about twice. Okay, so you're going to spend the best part of an extra cost of £12,000 a year, potentially, in running costs to find, to just keep that, when you could actually probably downsize to a more affordable property and even still have some sort of
extra bedroom.
Well, an office study, it converts into a bedroom when it's needed, something like that, or another room that they have for crafts or arts or pottery or an artist studio. Some of these
bungalows, some of these bungalows have the second bedroom, but it's usually got, like, sometimes they've got patio doors and they have a sofa bed in it, so it's like another reception room, but it could double up as a bedroom. So, and that kind of works for guests and family or whatever. I've seen that quite a lot.
But it is the emotional decision. It's the fact that the emotional decision overpowers everything. We know that because the emotional side of your brain is 6 times more powerful than the logical side of your brain. But when you look at it in a logical sense, like I've just explained there now, for your visiting family, for once a year, to save you almost £12,000, if not more, and release all that capital so you can go and do and have these holidays, these wonderful holidays you've always wanted to have. You could put them up in a hotel for that period of time. Yeah. Because literally it would only cost you what? I mean, I've just booked four nights in London. £100. You're not telling me it's dearer than London to have a place in, a place here, for 4 nights or even a week is £600 probably. An Airbnb, service accommodation that you could put them up in. It's just maybe a couple of doors up, or maybe just round the corner or in the same community. And it's like, that's all you need to spend, and you'll save yourself an absolute fortune. Most importantly, though, you'll not be cleaning a house from top to bottom in rooms that you don't need every single day. And you'll not be doing a garden just to keep manicuring it every single day, when you can't do it because your knees are giving out and your hips are in agony and your arthritis is coming into play. You could almost feel I've got some emotional response.
I've just got to say, Jim.
I'm getting to the stage. It's like, my God. It's like I'm holding my phone at night and I'm doing that, and then I put my phone down. It's like, oh my God, that's sore. I'll tell you. And it's like, I can't believe that. But I'm just, what, 50? I'm 56. 57. No, I'm 57 now.
You're 56.
No, 57 this year.
You're 56 because I'm 36.
I'm 56. Oh, well done. You're always 20. I'm always 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
I wonder if you ever catch up.
My
granddad used to say that to me all the time. You'll catch up with me one day. And I thought,
how am I going to do that?
That's no. Now I know it's not possible, but at that time I was just a wee lad, and I was like, "Can I?"
Trying to work that one out. But I mean, we laugh and things, but it's a real situation that does play out day in, day out, and there's a lot of people in that situation, and it does have a big effect on the way that the market, in terms of people moving around and up to be able to move up the property ladder. It does have an effect, and it, like you say, it obstructs them from doing that. Because there's a lot of good family homes that are taken up with maybe just an older couple, or sometimes even people on their own. And there's not enough new houses being built for people to go up the ladder into. So, and likewise, there's not enough suitable housing for people to downsize in either. So it's like a catch-22, and that's why we're in the situation we are now.
I even think we're getting to the stage where the council is going to rue the day, the very fact that they've not built enough social housing. And I'm talking about in terms of our elderly population. We know everything. Kirtland High School was floored and metal, and they're building it all in there. They're building all these units. They're building that home as well for our older generation, and that's fantastic. But I desperately think we don't have enough. I don't think we have enough at all, and I think it's essential. We need to have some sort of proper housing policy based on a community basis, actually based on boots on the ground, rather than, it's great, universal. It's great to say in politics, hey, we're going to build 110,000 social housing over the next 11 years. Okay, but if, how's that going to work, and how are we going to do that if we can't even build the private sector housing right now, and we don't have the resources to do that? We've sent all the people back home because of Brexit. We've got no people to do that. We've got lack of skills. We've got lack of tradespeople. We've got lack of people to actually fill positions. We can see that. Unemployment is at a record low still. 3.7% unemployment set, which is equivalent to where it was in 1971. It's never been as low since then. We've got a record level of low unemployment. We've got a record level of people chasing fewer jobs. It's crazy, eh? And that only means that prices will go up because people will begin to then try to pay higher salaries to attract the right people. Or what's happening next? The spiral of inflation. Inflation comes into play and starts to hit us as well again. And then everybody puts their hand out again and says, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" Oliver Twist. That's really, can I have some more? And then what happens out of that is then they turn around and say, "Well, I'm going to have to put my prices up then in order to pay you more," because the labour cost is usually the biggest cost of any product in manufacturing, any service given out. The labour cost is the highest. So that usually has an impact there. So therefore they put their prices up. Therefore we have to pay more. Therefore inflation gets measured and it goes up again. Interest rates have to go up to curb inflation. And then it's more money out of our pocket. And then we have to put our hand out again to go, can I get more? Because I can't afford to pay my mortgage now. See where that, but the difficulty of this, and I'll just close this loop, how we're thinking here. The difficulty of this, the person on universal credit suffers because they're not getting these salary increases like what anybody else is getting. So, 10% of 30,000 is £3,000. 10% of, I don't know what they're surviving on now, 9,000 is 900 quid.
So they've got the same prices to deal with, nevertheless.
Look, we're putting up universal credit by 900 quid or 10%, and everyone goes, "That's fantastic." And it's like, but that represents about 900 quid. They can literally can't even afford to live on what they've got there now, and you're going to try and give them 900 quid when the price has gone up everything else. Even food's gone up 17%. That's the measure they're talking about. So you see how that vicious circle and that loop, and you could easily get to a point where you have hyperinflation if you doing that, and you don't break the cycle. Or if you do break the cycle and it goes the other way and it drops too dramatically, you could have stagnation, which is even worse. We're actually better to have a decent level. Hence the reason the government just wants 2% inflation every single year, nice and stable, steady as we go, grow organically as a nation and as a gross domestic product in terms of exports and imports. Okay. One thing we know, though, one thing I know, we as a country have seen and will continue to see a lot of demographic change together with an increasingly aging population. It's coming.
I was going to say that people are living longer.
I spoke to, it was Eleanor Bowman actually last night. Was it Eleanor? Yeah, possibly. We were talking about that, and I was talking about the aging population. We're talking about jobs and all the rest of it. And I says, and about automation. And I says, you're going to have automation. Because literally, once people like me die off and all the generations before me, there's not enough people to replace all the jobs that are available.
Yeah.
And if we can't fill what we've got now, we can't replace all the more jobs that come on the market. That's why automation has to be put in place. And with the aging population as well, you're then going to have to earn more money to support the system, and it's going to come from taxes. Because you're not going to be bringing as much taxes as well, because all these older people like me will be having to need help, right? I won't. I've planned for this. I was smart enough to see this all coming 30 years ago and thought to myself, no chance. I know what's coming. I know we're going to have a pension crisis. I know we're going to have an economy which we're not going to have a sustainable health service or anything like that. So I made plans that I wouldn't rely on any help from the government for that reason. And lo and behold, unfortunately, it's come to fruition. Yeah. These are the things you think, I hope I'm not right. But deep down, when you know the numbers and you understand the numbers, and you see where things are going, yeah, it's right. Interestingly enough, I was listening this morning to a podcast, and they were talking about, this is me diverting, off the track. This guy was saying that Ray Dalio, right? Ray Dalio is a billionaire investor. And he's been, for the last 20 years or 30 years, he's been spending millions upon millions upon millions of pounds on research about, trends over all the hundreds of years in our society and looking for these trends. And he says it's exactly the same every single time, the pattern of behavior. And it goes from good to bad to good to bad to good to bad. And he says he knows and he's mapped it all out. Now, I thought, really? And the guy started saying, did you know that China, it's like China and America actually going to war? He reckons there's a 40% chance of that happening. Okay. And that's supposed to bother me? Well, when you think about it, you're either doing it or you're no. So it's either 0 or 100%. A 40% chance, I shouldn't be worried about that at all. But I'm genuinely believe that there's people out there going, do you realise there's a chance? It's like, there's a chance of anything happening.
I was just going to say, there's a chance that anything could happen,
Yeah, unless it happens, there's no point. So stop worrying about the things that don't happen or will never happen.
Yeah,
that's my top tip for today.
Yeah, do you know, I learned something earlier today, and it was about exaggerating things in your own mind. And we spoke about this before. It's like you think about scenarios and how things play out that haven't even happened, and then you know what I mean. And
is that in Stephen Brown's training by any chance?
It was, yeah.
See, there you go. See, most people don't realise that we have one of the top trainers in estate agency training in the UK. It actually coaches us every single week on a Thursday at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock Thursday, yeah.
12 o'clock Thursday. Coaches us every single Thursday. One of the top agency trainers in the UK.
Yeah, it was a good session.
Everybody else does that.
No, it was a good session. It was good for the team. It was anyway. That was basically what we covered in a nutshell.
But then the great thing about that is it keeps us on point.
Yep.
It keeps us in the zone, and people, in the zone is all about athletics and football and all the rest of it. And the top athletes, they're in the zone because they do the same thing all the time, and they don't actually come away from it. It almost becomes a part of them, and it's in their DNA almost. Well, it isn't their DNA. I keep saying if you basically cut me in half and open me up like a stick of rock, I'd have Fife Properties written all the way through because it's in my DNA.
Yeah.
But I'd have also housing in my DNA. I would have, politics and housing in my DNA as well, actually. But this is the crux of the problem here. The increasing aging population is going to be one we're going to have to watch out for, and the declining employed population. That's the one. This is why. Can we digress then? This is why we have to have a proper immigration policy. We need skilled people to come into this country and work and contribute towards the system and contribute their taxes as well. That's why you have to have a proper immigration policy, because we're a declining population. You don't see it right now, but it will eventually happen in the next 20 years, where the baby boomers like me will disappear completely. I mean, I'll be 76 years old. I'll probably still be working, by the way.
I would expect you to be honest.
Japan's got it right now. Japan's got a hugely aging population. It's way ahead of ours, and you can see the writing on the wall if you look at them. They've got a crisis on their hands. They've not got enough people to work in their economy now to support their aging population. So they've actually had to bring all the aging population back. There's people in Japan at 95-year-olds still working in the shops and in bakeries and stuff like that. Now, for their point of view, Jon Snow did this. If you watch How to Live Till 100 Years, I think it was a Channel 4 documentary recently. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Masterclass on how to live healthily and actively till 100 years and beyond. Because he was looking at the Japanese people, and they're working till all these ages. But the great thing is, they're contributing still towards society, and they're actually feeling better for it themselves because they're now part of something. I mean, it used to be like you're 65.
It still gives them purpose and things.
Yeah. At least it used to be the old thing about you're retired at 65, and then after that you're put out to pasture. That was literally it. And then everyone's like, "Well, wait a minute, what? I'm going to work all my life to save all this money, and then that's it." That was the fear I always had 30 years ago when I first started an investment. I would never want to get to the point where I wasn't able to enjoy what I had built in terms of wealth. I wanted it to do it a bit earlier than that. I never wanted to run along the beach or, have my Zimmer frame. I had this thing about the Zimmer frame along the beach trying to catch my wife. And even if I caught her, I wouldn't have known what to do because I was too old. That's the type of example of what I didn't want to have. That's what I didn't want to happen. It's like, thank God for that. I did what I did. Anyway, let's wrap up here. Aging populations, households. It's not only as many households we build, but whether we are constructing the right kind of homes for the older generation. I mean, there's thought-provoking times ahead for the Fife property market. And so, final words with you, Richard. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good stats and things there that represent how trends have changed, especially since lockdown and obviously the effects of the pandemic and how we move and up and down the ladder in Fife and things. But that has always been something that's a problem in terms of being able to move up the property ladder because these people are holding on to their homes. And there is only one way to kind of really resolve it, and it's to build the right housing for people to move either down the ladder or up the ladder, like you said.
So, people have tuned in, and we're just finishing off. My final words on this is probably, if you are looking to sell in the next couple of months, or even probably the next year, I'll be honest with it. If you want to know more about the other factors that will affect you and your property, because you don't know what you don't know. We do know what you don't know, by the way, and that's why you get us in to tell us that. Exactly what to do and how to do it. This is this couple that was in this morning. I was into this morning in St Andrews. They're not at the stage of selling right now, but what I've done is I've left them with the facts of where their position is right now compared to the position that they could be in, and how I can get them from here to there in the easiest way possible, with as least stress as possible, at the best value possible. And that's it. Thanks very much for coming on the show, Richard.
How are we Jim? That was good.
That's on the Saturday show. What we're talking about Saturday morning?
We're doing part 2 of Landlord Lingo. We're covering quite a lot on that. Karen will be joining us Saturday morning, so there'll be 3 of us. And you were talking a lot there about inflation and mortgage rates and things. Jim, you and I will be covering that on the Wealth Creation Show Monday at 12:30.
Monday at 12:30. That's going to be a good one because I'm going to show exact prime examples of how inflation, how interest rates, how occupancy rates, how yields, how returns, how taxes all affect your investment strategies in property.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you not tomorrow. This is Thursday. Saturday morning, 9:30.
Yeah.
Monday morning, 12:30. Monday afternoon, 12:30. There you go. Just shows you it's live.
Right, okay.
And on that note, bye-bye for now.